Great. Well, thank you, Charlie, and obviously thanks to the AV team and particularly all the etc. venue and GCV staff that's made it happen. But thank you to all in particular for coming and joining so many. I remember the first event we did in 2011 at the Emirates Stadium, home of the Arsenal Football Club, and there were fewer in the entire ecosystem. There was about 200 or so, 250 or so CVCs in the entire world. We had a good proportion of them there, but now we have more in this one room than there was in that there. So it shows a sign of how the overall ecosystem's grown and sort of developed. From my point of view, I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of context, a little bit of data to show why the industry's grown so successfully over this past 15 or so years, and hopefully give a little bit of a direction where we think some of that industry will go going forward. Obviously, as Charlie says, GCV, we're not just for the events here. We do broadly 3 services for the community. We do the news, Maya and her editorial team, if you want to wave from that point of view. So all the sort of news about who does what, the people moves, you can find there. We do surveys, we do webinars, podcasts, and everything else that you would expect from a media company. We do these types of events, not just here and in California and Tokyo and Sao Paulo as our main ones, but a whole host of sector and regional ones as well, primarily in the OECD countries. And third, Liz, if you're here as well, at the back there, she's over the past days with Patty and Paul Morris and others done the GCV Institute course, where we trained more than 700 CVCs over the past few years on how to do corporate venturing, how to land the value, how to engage the executives, and crucially, how to become more successful through the various inflection points. So do check out Liz and her team on that side of things. And then Janice and Amber, if you're around as well, help run the membership society. So how do you engage and value from all of those points of things? But I'll start with a question for you all, get you engaged, get you thinking a little bit. Most people know the magnificent 7 companies in terms of the 7 largest market cap companies in the US. We've got obviously Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, Nvidia, Meta, Apple, and Tesla. Which one of those is the odd one out? It's a corporate venturing connection, but any thoughts? Anyone want to raise a hand, shout out? There's no such thing as a wrong answer, although obviously there is a right answer, so depends how you want to define these things. But anyone, any thoughts?
Apple.
Apple? Great question. Kieran, why Apple?
No CVC.
Great answer. You're right, but Tesla also doesn't do a lot of direct CVC itself. But that's a great one. So I gave a course I teach at Stanford's GSB, and I asked that, and they said Tesla. They didn't think of the Apple one. So, but it was the same sort of challenge of that one. But the actual answer is Microsoft. So the other 6 companies all had CVC backing to get started and succeed. So actually Apple was backed by Microsoft, Tesla was backed by Daimler to keep going, survive. They took invested 50 million for a 9% stake back in 2009. Amazon was supported by local sort of corporates and executives. Amazon, after its IPO, Jeff Bezos invested in Google in its pre-seed round. He was the first backer of Google. Nvidia was backed by SoftBank, Meta by Interpublic. So all of those 6 companies had it. The odd one out was Microsoft, because Microsoft only had a corporate venture client-in relationship with IBM. IBM did the hardware, the PCs, and Microsoft developed, as a startup, the operating system. Now these companies are worth about $18 trillion. For context, the UK GDP is about $3 to $4 trillion. So those 7 companies, because of corporate venturing support, are what they are. They've driven US productivity, US growth, and globally we all benefit from their services. And we see the same pattern here in Europe and the UK as well. The Fab Four, as they're sometimes called, groups like ARM, which is basically in all of your phones, ASML, which basically is in all of your phones and everything else you use from a technology, because they help sort of create the sort of chips that develop. SAP, a very large German tech company. You know, and UiPath, a sort of robotics processing and automation company out of Romania. Again, these are 4 of the largest companies in Europe and tech company, a fraction of the size, admittedly, of the American ones. But again, they all had corporate venturing support, all American support actually, by the way, to keep going. But the idea translates. If you want to survive, if you want to succeed, you need to understand and use corporate venturing. And what does this mean if you're the corporate? If you're the the Apple that takes a sort of a 1 million investment in a then startup called ARM, what does it mean if you return 800 million? Sure, it can help you survive and keep going. That's important. But it gives you the understanding of how technology has changed, what people are using. And if you do this well, you outperform your peer group that don't do it, both on share price, free cash flow. If you're the portfolio company, if you are the Tesla and you're about to go bankrupt, you've got 2 weeks left and you're Elon Musk, but you suddenly get this pass from a Daimler, you keep going and you become a $1 trillion type company. And you see it, you're less likely to go bankrupt if you get corporate venture support. You're more likely to exit. You're more likely to exit more profitably than your peer group. That is transformative if you're the entrepreneur. And if you're the VC and you get the corporates as the LPs, what does it mean? It means you're more likely to raise your next fund, twice as likely in fact, because those benefits that you get from supporting the portfolio companies through your LPs translates. So the CVCs benefit, the VCs benefit, and the entrepreneurs benefit. And as a result, over the past 10, 15 years, the number of viewers has grown, the role within the ecosystem has grown as well. And we're starting to see VCs copy this. We just had a sort of roundtable discussion with Saul Klein, who helps chair the sort of the government's Committee for Science and Technology, helping corporates think about starting, leveraging some of the experience of them all. As he says, VCs are copying what you are doing. If you're going to survive and succeed as a VC, you have to understand how CVCs add value. An entrepreneur, she wants 5 things: capital, customers, product development, hiring and exit. CVCs can help with all of those things, and the best VCs are following that playbook. And so we've seen this order of magnitude growth in the number of corporate venturing units over the past 15 years, from about 250 to about 2,500. But obviously 2/3 of you still fail. That is a tragedy not just for you and your parent companies and the entrepreneurs you back, but it is avoidable. There are techniques to learn and how to do this. This roadmap can be copied. The GCV Institute, the Keystone Survey, how to benchmark yourself, following the news that Maya and her team are doing, understanding what your peers are doing, who are here and happy to share, will help you all survive and help everyone else, because then you can co-invest and do more together. So we see this maturity increase and improve, which shows it can be done, which therefore people can learn from. And I think I will end very briefly with a couple of thoughts. One, what we will start to see is just like Microsoft invested in Apple, Apple then looking and working with startups and understanding, or we see these other companies like Google, taking corporate back in and then extending and working out how they can work with startups and entrepreneurs. We're going to see more of these portfolio companies accelerate their innovation trends. If you're going to be a successful company, that rate of innovation, that change and disruption that you bring as a startup, you have to then be prepared for the next generation of startups to catch up with you. So how do you do that? How quickly can you develop your own startup venture program? That's going to be the transformative stage. It's not, are you an incumbent business doing it, but are you the next generation, and are you up to speed with what the people behind you are trying to do? In an AI world, that speed from idea to execution is hours. It's not days or weeks or months or years or decades. It's hours. If you're not up to speed with what's happening already around the world, you're already behind. And so it's being able to bring back to the parent companies, the corporations, this idea of the venture mindset. How do you understand that innovation, not just as a CVC, but how does your R&D team, how does your M&A team, how does the C-suite and the business units get on board and engage? Because the quicker they do it, the more they support the portfolio company, the more they help themselves and keep their jobs. So this is vital stuff to be able to do. Obviously, from my point of view, I want to say thank you again. We have obviously events around the world that we do. Please come to all of those ones or send some colleagues as global internationals. You're welcome to do so. But from my point of view, thank you again. And I'm delighted to hand it back to Charlie to continue with the rest of the program.